that they made the decision to make an agreement with the aliens. What was the nature of that agreement? The nature of the agreement was manifold, but basically, number one, we will not interfere with each other's civilization. Number two, there will be technical assistance between both of us to each other, exchange of technical information. And three, since the aliens claimed that they were a dying race and needed to, quote, create a new body line, unquote, our government agreed to build an underground basis for them, provide them with biological and genetic research facilities, and generally help them with this problem. And of course, they also mentioned the fact, well, we have been abducting some humans for medical examination. We're not doing anything to them, but we'll give you lists of those whom we continue to abduct. It's an ongoing process. They gave a few lists out, according to what I've heard, and then they stopped. Eventually, the military and the U.S. government, the secret operations in the government, found out that they'd made really a bad deal. The aliens were getting the better end of it. Make a long story short, or shorter, I should say, because the story is not over and it's still ongoing. We built a lot of bases starting in 1959 underground. Phil Schneider, a friend of mine, was part of the team, the geologists, to help build those underground bases, underground railroad systems, communications, eventually underground highway systems, all over the U.S. and Canada. And in some of those underground bases moved some of the aliens to work on genetics and genetic biological operations, and I've heard some real horror stories from eyewitnesses. But the thing was ongoing, it couldn't be stopped, and it has resulted in the period of time from '54 till today with some amazing breakthroughs in technology and biology, possibly energy systems, time travel, and you name it, all kinds of strange things came out of this because of alien technology. It was agreed, of course, we don't interfere with each other's civilization. One of the things that was involved here in that agreement was the fact that our new radar systems that the Air Force was using ran at about 435 megahertz, quite high power, directly interfered with the navigational systems of the alien ships. It was causing them to crash. That's why two crashed in Roswell in '47, another White Sands in '48, another one at Roswell in '49, or Roswell area. And this was an ongoing process the Air Force found out about, and they started doing it deliberately. Bring them down. In the treaty, they couldn't do it anymore. Not only that, but they had to change operational frequencies on these radar systems because of the fact they were interfering so heavily with the navigational systems of the aliens. I do not know all the technical aspects of this, but Rustin Nichols got involved with some classified projects, including examining one of the more of the down ships in the navigational systems, and they were involved in a very peculiar system. They said the more advanced ones used vacuum tubes of multi-element design, so the operating frequencies were 435 megs, and the reason for that was the fact that the aliens communicated telepathically with the computer. And this is apparently a standard window frequency, now well defined by the government. So most of the radar systems were moved off of that frequency. Later on, when Montauk went fully operational, it was back around 425 to 435 megs. But it was highly focused energy, and it wasn't aimed at aliens, so they got away with it for a while until they changed the nature of the system. This was where it started. Montauk was a result of many aspects, and of course the agenda in designing the system involved technology from aliens as well as our own technology. As they said to us, and I was heavily involved in the Montauk project for many years, they said, you can build the hardware. I said, that's no problem. He says, you don't know the theory. Quite literally, much of the theory in our textbooks is way off base. Part of it's deliberate disinformation, and part of it is just we don't know. It's a mix. In any case, we didn't know the whole story. They filled us in, so to speak, and we started building the Montauk project. There's a group called the Leverons, which are from the Iran Confederation, which provided the techniques and the technology for computers and the computer data and the algorithms and all of that. And by '76, when we had a good operating system, was faulty, but it worked. We were using IBM 360s and 370s, which of course were the state of the art in those days. with everything that went with the 360 and 370. And a few years later, of course, the Cray 1 came along, which was plugged into the system. They tried to make the time tunnel operation. And when I say a time tunnel, I better define a little more carefully what I mean. There was the capability of projecting and creating a tunnel. Literally, you could see it. In the early stages, it was above ground. Later on, they abandoned use of that microwave tower, and it was underground. It would create a hole in a solid wall when it was on because of the other electronics in back of it, which was about 8 feet in diameter, big enough to drive a small truck into. And this tunnel was lit, and it was not only a tunnel going through time, but it was a tunnel going to some other physical location in our known physical universe. It could be on the other side of the Earth, it could be on the Moon, it could be on Mars. It was used for that purpose back in '82. Or, as the rumors had it, they were playing games with the other side of a galaxy. They had the theoretical capability, they probably used it. But it was a time tunnel, which meant they could bore it, and it only required the transmitter at one end. There was no receiver necessary at the other end. It did not dissociate atomically the object being shipped through the tunnel. It remained in its normal state. So there was no disruption of the physiological functions of the human body. There was no disruption of an article or an object being sent through the tunnel. Unless the tunnel failed, and that happened a lot in the early days, they lost quite a lot of objects out in space, and maybe they lost people, I don't know. But they finally resolved it so it worked properly. And they could send this person or object through space to another location. When they wanted the object, the person to come back or to bring an object back, they would reverse the phase of it, so instead of it being pushing the person out, it would suck them in from the outer end back to the station. Rather advanced technology, but it